Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Weekly Oscar Talk, episode 10. Or now we're entering double digits. We have lots to talk about this week. The Oscar shortlists were supposed to come out today. They are not currently out as at the time of our recording. We'll have to see if they do come out while we're recording, but that's one thing we could potentially talk about. But there's other stuff to talk about too. And I'm joined by Anthony once again to talk all things Oscars.
Hi, everyone.
Um, so I guess first, without the short list, we can kick off the box office this past week. We all know Spider-Man did very well, but another Oscar, a Oscar hopeful, Nightmare Alley, released to 2.8, I believe, million this past weekend on a $60 million budget. And West Side Story as well dropped very steeply in its second weekend. So both of these movies, I mean, both Fox of different branches, but both Fox movies, both Oscar contenders and dramas. I think we've already been over how important box office is this season. I don't think it's going to play a huge factor, but I do think it could have a small factor, but not a big one. But what do you think this says about the future of like Oscar films and dramas in general at the box office?
Yeah, as far as the Oscars go, I've always said that I don't think bad box office will hurt, but I always think good box office can help. Um, and so I don't think that Nightmare Alley or West Side Story or any other film that has had depreciated box office should worry in terms of that affecting their Oscar chances. Uh, I do think that had they had been a bigger hit, gone out and made some money, it would have been easier because the word of mouth would have spread. There would have been more attention on the film. So it always helps. But again, this year, like we're looking at really Dune being one of the few movies that actually made some money
Yeah,
among the Best Picture contenders. Now the West Side Story has unfortunately flopped. So as far as box office affecting the race, I don't think it will. As far as this greater conversation about where dramas now fit in the modern media landscape, I think it's interesting. I think you see a lot of people trying to attach themselves to the past. I do think it's a little when you have people like Martin Scorsese coming out and talking about how everything is different and talking about Marvel movies when he himself is making movies for Netflix.
yeah,
We're not
yeah,
like Netflix and streaming is what's creating so many more opportunities for dramas, not only long form with series, but even short form. I mean, look at Netflix this year with Power of the Dog, Passing, Tick Tick Boom. These are great quality films. And I don't think that the ecosystem that we're in right now, where we have to be cautious, Omicron is on the rise.
yeah,
Spider-Man is one of the rare movies that gets people to go to the theaters because they want to be in that experience. They want to be with a crowd and they want to see the next part of the story. There's no rush to go see West Side Story or Nightmare Alley, which are based off of classic films that they can
yeah,
watch from this home, or they already know the ending of the story. And so that's the other thing too, is the rush to see these stories aren't as necessary in a pandemic because there isn't this feeling of I need to make sure I am caught up with the story. So I do think that trying to equate or trying to blame Nightmare Alley's lack of success on like Spider-Man, I think is a very thin argument because A, that makes it sound like Spider-Man's box office is guaranteed, which it isn't. This is 19 years in the making. Films like this don't come around often, and Marvel has created something unique that audiences really resonate with. It's not just like they're not like raking in the dough and like it's all like callous. Like there's a lot of crap that goes in creating that fan community around the world. And I also think that's putting people like Nightmare Alley, like Guillermo del Toro and Steven Spielberg up for failure. Don't expect them to compete not only with Spider-Man, but with their past selves. We're in a completely different world in terms of box office. And it's going to take a little while for people to find their place, especially with dramas. But I do think the fact that we're seeing a lot more smaller films recognized by critical communities and the Academy, the authenticity of these stories is improving. I do think, even though it's different from the past, the wealth of stories that are being told and their exposure is great. The fact that you have indie movies on Netflix is fantastic because there are people who would not go to see these movies, or maybe there wasn't an indie theater near them but they can pop on The Power of the Dog on Netflix. That's great. And I love that that's a possibility. So I do think that it's a very contentious time, a lot of opinions, a lot of emotions. But when we take a
Hmm.
step back, I do think that we're all going to get along and everybody's going to get along and it's all going to work out.
Yes, I hope so. I do think um, I've seen lots of people putting blame on the audiences in particular for these flops on West Side Story and Nightmare Alley about how they used to be able to go out and I believe it was Scott Mendelson or someone pointed out in like 2015, Force
Yes.
Awakens came out and made a bunch of huge money, but there was also movies like Revenant, a bunch of other movies that were dramas and made money. But I
Which
just, no,
made
go ahead.
money over the Christmas holiday. Let's
Yeah,
also
over
like,
time.
yeah, it's Force Awakens. Nothing made money the weekend of December 18th to the 20th in the opening weekend of
No,
Force Awakens.
no.
Those movies made money after. So let's wait. Let's see if they're truly dead in the water.
Yeah, yeah. Not many movies have legs nowadays, but we will see. But I also would, with these two movies in particular, put a little blame on the studios as well. I'm getting a vibe, especially with Disney, with their Fox movies, that they're kind of just dumping a lot of them. I think with these two, they did have some faith in them, but I just still think the marketing behind them was not very good for either of them. The trailers were good, but I don't think they had, especially Nightmare Alley, like any push at all. Um, for any like neither of my parents knew what Nightmare Alley even was. Um, so I don't think there's a ton of awareness about that movie in particular. Um, but yeah, I think
I,
overall
I
you
saw
can put
the
as much blame
theory.
on the studios.
Yeah, I saw the theory that Disney isn't used to being able to market these type of movies, and so that's why you're getting this sort of confused
Yeah,
advertising push, which I maybe see that being an argument. But I also think Disney is able. They used to own subsidiaries and smaller companies that like did have Oscar contenders. So I'm not sure that's
yeah,
100% true. I think it's partly they want to get rid of these movies. I
hmm,
think The King's Man was supposed to come out
yeah,
November of 2019. It was supposed to come out before Frozen 2. And so, like, we have, I think they want to just get these movies out there. They've been around so
hmm,
long. I know my friend only wants to go see Spider Man. It's like, how many freaking times am I going to have to watch the King's Man trailer?
yeah.
So,
That's gonna be another Fox flop.
yeah, well, again, we'll see. But I just think, again, it's partly there isn't a rush to go see these movies because a lot of them are classic or based on classic material. And the other thing is, there's so much to see. Omicron's on the rise. We're not in a traditional movie setting. As much as Spider-Man No Way Home's box office makes us think that we are, that is a once in a cinematic lifetime event. Do not think that, Spider-Man No Way Home made $260 million in 3 days. We're back to normal. We're not back to normal. That was a anomalous event.
Hmm.
Um, so it's interesting. I do think that there was a fault. I think if they released Nightmare Alley maybe in limited, grew the audience.
Yeah,
Licorice Pizza is doing that to great effect currently. We'll see what happens when it opens wide on Christmas. And then West Side Story, I think they just picked a bad release date. I think if it opened for the Thanksgiving holiday or if it opened in January with limited release for Christmas to qualify for the Oscars, I think those would have been better. I think putting both of these movies next to Spider-Man as if they were going to counter program Spider-Man
yeah,
just never seemed like a good idea because haven't been going to the theaters, and if they're going to go to the theaters, they're going to go for that movie.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I think it's definitely partly Disney's fault, but I also think it's a lack of understanding of we are not out of this pandemic, and looking at Spider-Man to say that we are is, I think, falsely
yeah.
equivalating the success of that and what that means.
Yeah, and I don't think you're gonna get the older audience into the theaters two times in one weekend. I think a lot of them probably,
But yeah,
if they were going to the movies, are probably taking their kids or just seeing Spider-Man in general. So
yeah. I mean, Spider-Man's demographic was 60% of the audience was under 25. That is not the
yeah,
type of people who are going to go see Nightmare Alley. Those are not
no,
the type of people, save for drama club kids who are going to go see West Side Story. And
hmm,
so, what does that mean that that will stay the same? No, I don't think so. I think there are a lot of people who, as soon as it feels safe, they will go back, but that's going to take a while. And I, for one, let Marvel keep bringing people in the doors because I think Dan Merle said this. People getting in the doors to a movie theater is good. It doesn't matter
yeah,
what the movie is, and
yeah,
especially one that's I think we both really enjoyed the film. It's a really well
Yeah,
made movie. It's very positive, and people having a happy experience in a movie theater for the first time in almost 2 years. So
yeah,
I think that we'll get back to the days when you can open like a Ford v Ferrari. I don't think Ford v Ferrari, they said that maybe this is the last Fox movie. It might end up being the last Fox movie to make money, but I don't think those movies are off the table. 1917 also did a lot of uh, considerable box office. So those movies
yeah,
will come back when the audience feels comfortable again. I think forcing people and guilting the audience for not going to support these movies when we are still in the middle of a pandemic, I think is
yeah.
it's a very odd it's a very odd argument, especially when there's quality movies at home. Like there's a lot of great films and television shows to catch up on, especially if you want to keep your family safe over the holidays and not, go out to theaters. Again, I think we're trying to find these big things. We're sensationalizing this topic. It's a more of a gradient conversation.
It
Um,
is.
and I'm interested to see what the Christmas holiday looks like. Can The Matrix, can Kingsman, can Sing 2, can these, or can some of these smaller Oscar contenders, can Licorice Pizza, can they find their audience? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Definitely. We'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, in general, I don't think either of us think box office is going to affect much this year at all, which is kind of sad for In the Heights, but I think that also has the release date factor. And it was also kind of the first flop, so
Yeah, In the Heights also has Rocket Man syndrome, except reversed. It's like
yeah,
where Rocket Man came out after Bohemian Rhapsody, and so you were like, well, we already have one of these. West Side Story came out, and it's like, well, we already have one
yeah,
Latino celebrating musical. We don't need two.
yeah,
So unfortunately, that
yeah,
kind of, and also Lin Manuel Miranda also has Tick Tick Boom, which is
yeah.
garnering a lot of stats as it should. So it's
Lots of
like,
musicals, yeah.
yeah, a lot of musicals and a lot of the same people involved
Yeah,
with the musicals.
definitely, yeah. Yeah, so that's the box office. The LAFC Association, in other news, announced their winners this past week. So going through them real quick, starting off with Best Cinematography, the winner was Power of the Dog, Ari Wegner, and the runner-up was Dune for Greg Fraser. I think both of these are really good picks, but um, I think I probably do like Power of the Dog cinematography a little more. I think it was very, very artful. So
I
I
would
like
say
that one.
those plus West Side Story, and those are your
Those
three
are,
from
yeah,
for the category.
yeah. I think West Side Story could potentially win. Then Best Score slash Music, winner, Parallel Mothers, Alberto Iglesias, once again. And runner-up, The Power of the Dog and Spencer by John Greenwood. So he's able to sneak two in there. That's kind of cheating. But yeah, Parallel Mothers is doing really good in score lately for some reason. So Best Supporting Actress, winner Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, as she should, and runner-up Anjanou Ellis for King Richard. I think Ariana DeBose is going to go all the way to the Oscars.
Yeah, I started saying this when Lady Gaga started getting critics wins, like I think from the New York Film Critics. I was like, all right,
Yeah,
if critics are going for her, then she may get in and be a strong contender. Ariana DeBose winning a lot of these critics groups is great because West Side Story doesn't need that critics' help. We'll talk about what they gave Best Picture to, but that's the type of film that organizations like LAFCA and all these critics groups are, there for. They see everything and they see the
yeah,
smaller stuff and they can give a bump. If they're giving a bump to what already is the front runner, then they're pretty again locked in. That's very rare that these type of performances, these type of films don't go all the way. So I agree with you. I think Ariana DeBose is the clear front runner, and
hmm
I'd be shocked if anybody took it away from her.
yeah. And she's, in my opinion, the best of all the options. So that's exciting.
All right, she is very.
Um, Best Production Design winner Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. Interesting. And runner-up Nightmare Alley. Don't think Barb and Star is going to end up getting an Oscar nom, but fun
I
choice.
don't think it's eligible because it didn't
Oh yeah,
play
the
in
release date.
theaters and the release date. It's not eligible for some reason.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, Production design, I could see Nightmare Alley possibly, but I see that movies may be getting a muted response from the Academy. I could see.
Yeah.
I think production design is going to come down to Dune or West Side Story, which I think a lot
Yeah.
of the technical categories are going to
It's
come
going
down
to
to
be.
Dune and West Side Story, save
Yeah.
for costume, where I think Cruella will be able to maybe stick her heel in.
Yeah. I think those two are definitely fighting for pretty much all the techs. And for production design, I would say West Side Story is probably going to win that, in my opinion. Best editing winner Summer of Soul, and the runner-up Licorice Pizza. Nice to see a documentary get in there. And Licorice Pizza, I wasn't sure if it was going to get into editing at the Oscars, but I think it probably will.
Yeah, it depends on how much, again, they love the film. Usually, if you're a well-loved film in the Academy, you will get an editing nomination, which usually goes hand in hand with a Best Picture nomination and win. A lot of times you need
Yeah,
editing. Very rarely, like Birdman, but that was a one-take movie.
yeah,
Um, for example, Green Book got a Best Editing nomination. People are like, what? But it showed you the love that the Academy had. I'm happy Licorice Pizza got in. It's a really well edited movie. And this group usually goes for documentaries for Best Editing. So them
makes
giving it to
sense.
Summer of Soul makes sense, which Questlove did a fantastic job with that documentary. I still think that is
Yeah,
the leading documentary contender.
which then makes me think it's not going to get nominated. So,
Yeah, that is the thought process for the documentary.
yeah,
That and Best Director, it's like whoever's the
yeah,
front runner, scrap it.
not gonna happen. Sorry. Sorry, Questlove. Best Supporting Actor, we had a tie between Vincent Linden in Teton and Cody Smith-McPhee in The Power of the Dog. Nice to see some Teton love somewhere since it's getting shut out pretty much everywhere, but good choices.
Great choices. I'm very happy for him. He was fantastic, as was Cody Smith McPhee.
Yeah, yeah. I think Cody Smith-McPhee is going to get an Oscar nomination. I see lots of people still like not believing that. It's not a very showy performance, but that category is just weird in general. So I think there's enough space for him.
Yeah, and people love Power of the Dog,
Yeah,
so I think he'll go along for the ride.
yeah, definitely. Um, Best Animation, winner Flea, runner-up Belle. Um, so yeah, none of the Disney ones got in there.
And no Mitchells versus the
No
Machines.
Mitchells, yeah, tragic. That movie
And
better get an Oscar nomination.
I think Flea will get in, and the three Disney ones, and then Mitchells. I think that'll be your five at the.
Probably. Yeah.
I could see a world where Raya gets snubbed for Belle, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I would say I honestly think Summit of the Gods has a better chance than Belle, in my opinion, but we shall see. Best screenplay, winner, Drive My Car, runner-up Licorice Pizza. Lots of Drive My Car here in New York film critics, so seems pretty beloved. Seems like the foreign film frontrunner.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's close to 3 hours, so it's
It
a
is, yeah.
long snip, but it's apparently a very rewarding sit. I haven't had the chance to see it yet. I'm interested to see if it becomes the front runner. I still am thinking Asghar Farhadi's reputation as a hero in the front runner status for international feature, and it's that I have seen and it's fantastic. So,
Hmm.
but I now that Teton is falling, I think because it just I think it's proving to be a little too weird for the masses to get behind, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
It's a
sad.
fantastic film. I think it will come down to Teton and Drive My Car because also the worst woman in the world doesn't seem to be this behemoth that's picking up a lot of these critics groups,
No,
and the fact that it's not picking up the critic support means it will most likely not pick up the Academy support.
yeah, yeah. The Academy probably just looks at what the critics pick in terms of what to watch. Um, Best documentary winner, Summer of Soul, runner-up Procession. Once again, Summer of Soul is current frontrunner. Best actress winner, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, and runner-up Renate Rienzvi for Worst Person in the World. Two foreign film performances here. Good for them. Um, then Best Actor winner, Simon Rex, Red Rocket, runner-up Benedict Cumberbatch, Power of the Dog. I'm happy for Simon Rex getting some attention somewhere. Good for him.
It's great for him. There was this funny thing where all the Benedict Cumberbatch Stan accounts would be, it's like the most respectful Stan community. They were like, congrats to
Yeah.
Simon Rex, and we'll take this win.
Oh,
Um,
that's nice.
it was nice of them. But Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm getting very, very close to predicting Benedict Cumberbatch in an Olivia Colman, Glenn Close
I was thinking
upset
that too. Yeah.
because
He could win the BAFTA.
I think he will most likely win the BAFTA out of the contenders. Like, I definitely think he has a better chance of winning the BAFTA over Will Smith.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
BAFTA's a little racist too. So
yeah. But yeah, I think overall, Will Smith, the idea of Will Smith winning the Oscar is what's, I think, propelling his campaign more than the performance itself. And I also think Benedict Cumberbatch has had a great year. I mean, he's had multiple movies not in released. He's in the highest grossing movie of the year.
yeah, he's in a
Can't
lot.
help it.
Yeah, yeah, I do think. Yeah, I do think him and Will are even now. Will used to be like such a big front runner, but I do think they're pretty even. We'll have to see once the major awards start coming out who starts winning.
Yeah, I think those two and Andrew Garfield for Tick Tick Boom are your three locks for that
Yeah,
category. I think
yeah,
there is not a scenario where those three don't get in.
yeah, absolutely. Andrew Garfield, I've seen a lot of actors really like his performance, like on social media or posting about it. So who knows? Maybe he has a
Resonates a
small
lot.
chance. Yeah,
I think I'm not going to predict him for the Oscar, but do not be surprised if Andrew Garfield wins the SAG award for Best
yeah,
Actor
that would
because
that would make
that
sense.
that performance, and I also think if Robin DeJesus is going to pop in anywhere, it's going to be at SAG because that movie resonates so much with actors and so much with people who know what it's like to create things. I think that's why Tick Tick Boom is overperforming on the same level
Yeah,
as Coda. It's really resonating with the awards voters.
yeah, definitely. Best Director winner Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and runner-up. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher your name. Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car. Lots of Drive My Car love. I do think I've seen lots of people adding him to their director top five because the past like 3 years have had a foreign film director. I still don't think there's going to be a foreign film director at this current moment in the
I mean,
top
the
five.
last couple of years, we've had a foreign film director nominated along with a Best Picture nomination, Alfonso Cuarón,
Yeah,
for 2018. 2019, was there anybody? No, 2019.
Bong
Oh,
Joon-ho.
Hong Joon-ho, and then
Yeah,
2020, Lee Isaac-Chung. So all of those were,
and what's his name? For another round. What's his name?
Thomas Fincherberg.
Yeah, yeah,
So that would be the type of nomination we're looking for, would be a Thomas Winterberg. But Thomas Winterberg is a very established name, and I believe he had been nominated for an Academy Award before, which I'm
yeah,
not so sure of this director. So we'll see. But I feel like director is kind of, I feel like you have four locks in the category, and that leaves
you do.
everybody else fighting for one spot, which is tough when you're a lesser name than others.
Yeah, you also had, I also forget his name, but the Cold War got their director
Paul
in.
Polakowski. Yes, that
Yeah,
is. It's funny. I feel like it's very rare. I feel like both of those individuals were also nominated alongside other international features. So maybe it's like they're
yeah,
just looking at that list and then looking at the best picture race. It's interesting.
it is. Yeah. And then for their best picture, speaking of, the winner was Drive My Car, runner up Power of the Dog. Yeah. I believe Drive My Car has won now, both the LAFC and the NYFCC, which I believe no film has ever won both of those and not gotten nominated at the Oscars. So interesting if it will be the first.
Yes, it will be interesting. The fact I don't think it's released yet, so I think that helps.
Yeah.
Um, we shall see. It's going to need to pick up a lot more mainstream, like Parasite people knew about, Roma people knew
Yeah.
about. It helped that Roma was on Netflix. If Drive My Car maybe was on a streamer, I would feel more confident. So we'll see if it can build this momentum. But I mean, the fact that nobody was talking about this movie in Best Picture context until this past week, I think does hurt its chances because there does seem to be the sort of groupthink that happens with Best Picture. It's like, oh, we're predicting since September what's going to get in, and so it's
Yeah.
very rare for then a movie just to pop in there out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That 9 and 10 spot are still kind of open, so we'll have to see.
It's true.
Very open. Then quickly, the Annies did announce their nominees this morning, and Raya and the Last Dragon led the nominations with 10, just barely beating out everyone else. For Best Feature, they did Encanto, Luca, Raya and the Last Dragon, Sing 2, and The Mitchells versus the Machines. So,
Was Flea disqualified?
I believe Flea goes into a different category that they
Okay,
have, I
because
believe.
I mean, I haven't seen Flea, but I have seen Sing 2. It's
Yeah,
very, if that was the choice made, that would have been very interesting.
it would be. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not seeing Flea anywhere.
So maybe it was disqualified. I can't imagine that they would not nominate it. It seems like such
Yeah,
a
yeah,
beautiful
it was
animated
nominated
film.
it was nominated in writing, and yeah, they nominated it in a few places. I probably wasn't eligible for
Maybe it's like
that.
the Golden Globes, how even though you're the Hollywood foreign press, a foreign film couldn't be nominated for Best Picture and the foreign category. So
Yeah, it was nominated for Best Indie Feature, so maybe you're not allowed to be in both.
who knows?
Yeah.
But good, yay for Sing 2. That's probably the
Yeah,
only big nomination you're going to
probably.
get.
Yeah, good for you. Hopefully, you get some box office also to back you up.
We'll see.
Um, and then last bit in news here, just thought it would be fun to talk about. Barack Obama announced his favorite movies of this year. And once again, as I look forward to every year, Barack Obama has taste. So his list includes Drive My Car, Summer of Soul, West Side Story, The Power of the Dog, Pig, Passing, The Card Counter, Judas and the Black Messiah, The Worst Person in the World, Old Henry, The Last Duel, Tragedy of Macbeth, Come On, and Koi Vadis Aida. Yeah, it's a pretty good list. I
Some
wonder how
good
he gets
lists,
access to all of
some
these.
questionable ones on there, but
With the
some
card
good,
counter.
very good lists. Card Counter being one, The Last Duel being another for
I
me.
like The Last Duel.
Yeah,
That's
I
in my
know.
top 10.
Wow. Okay, we have
Like,
very
well,
different lists.
yeah.
Um, but it's very interesting. I mean, I was going to be like, how did he see Drive My Car already? But
Yeah.
I mean, he's
How did
Obama,
I
so
believe he posted this before West Side Story came out too, so
yeah,
he's getting some special access.
yeah. I wonder why. It's not like he was the 44th president of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, true, true.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
fun.
well.
It's always fun when he shares his list.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder if he like has if he actually watches these movies or if he just has like some like A24 kid be like these are what like people would say you like. He probably does actually watch.
He probably watched him and
How did he
Michelle.
see Tragedy Macbeth? I want to see Tragedy Macbeth.
Was that
That's
on his
more
list?
interesting. Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Worst person in the world, also not going to be available for a while. So, Obama, please let me know who your supplier is. I would like to contact them. Yeah, so that's a fun list. So that's pretty much it in the news. We have one trailer to talk about this week. We haven't had trailers in a while here. It's a trailer for Robert Eggers' new movie starring Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, The Northman. It's like a Viking-esque movie. It looks a little more mainstream than its past two movies, interestingly enough, The Lighthouse and The Witcher. So what do
Which
you think of
The
this?
Witcher.
Witcher, yeah, true. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I have The Witcher on the brain, even though I don't watch that show. It's on the brain.
Oh
Um,
God. No,
yeah,
you're good. I'm here. That's why I'm here.
yeah. Immediate. The comments don't have to get me.
This looks good. It doesn't look like an Oscar movie.
No.
Maybe production design, maybe, but like if The Green Knight couldn't really amount to anything in terms of an Oscar campaign, I doubt this one will. Despite, I mean,
Yeah.
never doubt Willem Dafoe. He could get in there for supporting actor.
He's always so good.
Willem Dafoe, so good. He's great. I mean, he's great in Nightmare Alley. He has a smaller role. He's fantastic in Spider-Man. So,
Seriously.
yeah, he's always great. But yeah, it looks exciting and really well shot, and it looks enthralling. And cast is great, well shot. Robert Eggers, he's a really great director. I really like The Witch. I love The Lighthouse. I think he's becoming a really interesting filmmaker, and I'll be there in April.
Yeah, I need to see The Witch. I haven't seen that. But yeah, he's definitely an interesting filmmaker. This is also partially why I don't really want to watch trailers sometimes because I didn't want to see Ethan Hawke dying. I feel like that would be much better in the movie. But
Was that who Ethan Hawke was? I was trying to find him in the trailer.
yeah, he was the dad
Funny.
who is like trying to avenge. So I guess it's like the main plot of the movie, so you kind of have to show it, but still. I'm excited for Anya Taylor-Joy the most because she seems to have a big role.
Yes, the rise of Anya Taylor-Joy.
She's on the rise. Okay, so now getting into the review section. The main one this week that we have both seen, that pretty much everyone in the world has seen, Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, and then we may talk about a few other smaller ones, but the main one will be Spider-Man No Way Home. What did you think of the movie, Anthony?
I love this movie. I love Spider-Man. I always have. I was 12 years old when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. On May 1st, I saw that movie. and on May 5th, I bought my first comic book. And I think it was funny. I only realized this last year that that was the same summer that my grandfather passed away, and it was my first experience with like death in real life. So I wonder,
Oh,
like, was Spider-Man, did he resonate because of that? And I do think he did. I think this has been a character that's been very personal to me. I love this character. I loved reading these comics, growing up with all iterations of these movies. And I thought this movie really captured the cross-generational appeal of Spider-Man, and more specifically Peter Parker. It was so enthralling, so exciting, so pulsating, so much fun. To be a part of this audience was such a thrill and reminded me why I love movies. And to go
yeah,
into a theater this weekend was to see what the pursuit of cinematic storytelling is all about. You know,
yeah,
uniting people both on screen and in the audience to tell a story that is emotional, impactful, arousing. You know, I'm not going to spoil anything because in case for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, so
yeah.
probably two people. But I thought the craft was I really enjoyed the craft. I thought there's some really nice shots of the film. The cinematography
Definitely.
was very well
Yeah,
done. There's a shot in the rain that I think evokes the Tears in Rain monologue from Blade Runner.
yeah.
Um, the score by Michael Giacchino, I think one of his best.
Hmm.
Um, I thought the way the camera moved during a lot of the action sequences was a lot of fun. It kept you in the moment. It had a lot of gravitas, and like you felt every punch, specifically an apartment fight between
Yeah,
Tom Holland and Willem Dafoe. That being said, the performances were extraordinary. Tom Holland was just led this cast and crew with so much passion for the material, so much just emotion and catharsis. Willem Dafoe, maybe second to Heath Ledger, is the greatest comic book villain of all time.
yeah.
He
He's really good.
was really great. Marissa Tomei's great. Zendaya is great. Jacob Batalon's great. Benedict Cumberbatch is great. I liked what they did with exploring the history of good and evil and storytelling, and how this whole idea of like what they do with the villains in terms of what the actual like what Peter Parker's trying to do with the movie, I thought was very cool and very like
Yeah.
nobody's ever done that approach with the villains before in terms of what the goal is with them. I thought, again, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I thought that was really great. So yeah, I've seen the movie 5 times. I absolutely love it.
Oh
I have
wow,
tickets today.
that's
I have a couple more tickets in the future. It's just the
fun.
first for anybody who loves Spider-Man. This is such a special movie, and
Hmm.
I really, really loved it. And I think it captures why certain movies and certain characters resonate with you so greatly. If it's it's just a special feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed the movie, more than I expected. It was an interesting theater experience for me because I was still on campus when I saw this movie. So there's only one local theater, um, and there was the showing was at 8 p.m. It was really, really packed. The theater is very small, um, so I was lucky to get a good seat. But there were people in the neck breakers all the way in the front. Like somehow that row was all the way filled. People were watching the movie standing by the side the whole time, which is a little distracting, but it's still fine. And yeah, there were some verbal fights before the movie started, but yeah,
Oh, lovely.
always fun. They did overbook the theater, but yeah. In terms of the movie, I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed it much more than I expected. I would say it's definitely my favorite of the three Holland movies,
Oh yeah.
probably because it has the most emotion, I think, in all of them. And it feels the most Spider-Man like to me. I feel like they addressed all of the issues I had with the past movies in terms of like, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but like his relationship with Iron Man and like his reliance on the technology, a lot of that stuff, which I kind of had issues with. They address it all very well here. They make him more like Spider-Man usually is. And Tom Holland's performance is really good. He does carry the whole movie. He has one scene in particular where he does really good alongside Marissa Tomei. Uh, and yeah, Willem Dafoe, I think, is probably the standout of the whole movie performance wise. Somehow he did even better than his original performance. Um, just like so menacing. Like I don't think he was that menacing in the first Spider-Man for my um,
Because we got to see his
memory.
face. Such a brilliant choice.
Yeah,
To see it's just I mean, honestly, like he gave one of the most memorable performances of the year. Like it's never
yeah,
the type of movie that'll get like an Oscar performance, like a Best Supporting Actor, but he was that affecting to me. I thought he was
He was.
fantastic.
He was. I will be rooting for her, campaigning for him in our own ceremony at some
Yes.
point. Um, but what else? I thought, yeah, like you said, I thought the cinematography was really good here. I did think, in terms of complaints, I think I could tell in a lot of shots that the visual effects was down to the wire. There were a few a little off shots, and I feel like I could also tell with a lot of scenes that these actors were not in the same room together. The way it was shot, you could tell there were individual shots of each people probably on a green screen saying their line to someone who's probably not there, which just made the chemistry and overall interaction, I feel like, not as good as it could have been, but it didn't detract too much from my experience.
There was one scene that I felt that way, but it was only like on like the third viewing or fourth viewing that I was like, huh, I wonder if they were all there that day.
Yeah,
Um, I thought, yeah, I think overall, like you're saying, some of the visual effects, a lot of these things I didn't notice on first viewing. So usually I'm like, if I don't notice it on like the first couple of viewings, then like I usually think it's good. It's like I'll give it a pass because of course you're gonna see like things on like multiple viewings,
yeah,
or you
yeah,
go through a fine tooth comb. Like I thought, as far as Marvel visual effects goes, I thought this was one of the biggest loads that it had, and I thought they did a nice job
yeah.
with it.
Especially the de-aging. I didn't even, that's some of the best de-aging I've ever seen,
I didn't even
honestly.
know. I
Insane.
thought he just didn't age like him and Willem
Yeah,
Dafoe. Like they just looked the same.
they did. Yeah. Yeah, that was if that's where I maybe focused a lot of their visual effects and it was really, really well done. I didn't even I forgot like, oh, this isn't how they currently look. Yeah, also really good. The villains, I think, like you said, Willem Dafoe's the standout. Alfred Molina is also good. Jamie Foxx kind of playing a different character, but I like the character, so fine by me. Zendaya does a good job. The humor is good in a lot of spots. There's one thing that happens with Ned that is like kind of questionable that I don't really like. But whatever. We can do a quick. I mean, pretty much everyone has seen it. We can do a quick mini spoiler session. If you haven't seen it, go see it, but you probably have.
Yeah, skip ahead. In three, two, one. It was
There you go.
such. I was in such disbelief watching Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland interact.
Yeah,
It, but what was great about it is that listen, fan service gets thrown a lot around a lot of movies being made today. This one didn't feel like fans were the primary, like we're making this and the only goal creatively is to please the fans. I thought what they did with all the characters, they were in it a lot more than I thought they were going to be.
yeah,
And I really liked how they had Tom Holland at this point in the narrative after Aunt May's death, which I also really, really liked. I thought
yeah,
it gave her the spotlight and the dignity that has always been given to Uncle Ben, but I think should be given a little bit to Aunt May. She's the one who's always been there for Peter, and I really love that. And Marissa Tomei did a great job with that monologue. But really seeing Peter Parker at that moment see two versions of himself: somebody who has not grown beyond his grief of letting somebody he loved pass with Andrew Garfield, and then Tobey Maguire, who's learned to grow beyond it. And using those two Peters that way, I thought was a really effective use of the three Peters. I mean, the shot when Toby stops Peter from impaling Willem Dafoe, that moment is just so powerful. It's again, it's just I think it never felt to me that this was like cloying or they were thinking of me on a spreadsheet. Like this will make him very happy. It
yeah,
felt genuine, it felt earned. And when they're swinging around that Statue of Liberty with that score and then they just all land together, it was just like
yeah,
that's movie magic.
yeah. And I mean, fan service isn't necessarily always a bad thing. I mean, people always say it like it is always a bad thing, but I mean, pretty much all directors want, in one way or another, to service their audience. They want their audience to enjoy their movie. So
I
I
mean,
don't
you
think
could argue that any foot shot is fan service for Tarantino fans.
exactly,
So
exactly.
I feel, and
Fans
it's
for
like,
service for himself, but yeah,
yeah, like 19 years in the making. Like, I think it would be hard for anything if you build something that long. As the
you have
minute,
to reference things.
yeah, the minute you hit frame one, it's going to be fan service because that's how much people love these movies. But it didn't ever feel cheap. It felt earned.
It
The
did, yeah,
narrative was smart and I think involved in ways that it didn't have to be. Like they definitely put in the work to earn not only all these characters, but earn the stature of going back into these previous movies that people love.
yeah. And in terms of the Spider-Man, I just want to shout out, he's always been my favorite. Andrew Garfield is easily the best Spider-Man. He always has been. people are finally realizing it. He steals once he comes on in the movie. I think he steals every scene he's in, and in particular, that scene where he catches MJ is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
It was really
His
good.
face once he like catches her, just such good acting. He's easily
Yeah.
the best of them, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, listen, I love Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog, but I think we should. I think Andrew Garfield deserves the Oscar not for Tick Tick Boom and not for this movie, but just for the
The
interviews
campaign,
about him to
yeah,
deny he was in the
yeah.
movie. I think
Poor guy.
it's a nice three-peat of the year, and Isa Tammy Faye, which he also was pretty good in
Yeah,
too.
he had like 3 movies to campaign before this movie. Sadly, it's probably like,
Well, Toby hasn't been in a live-action movie since
yeah,
2014, so he
exactly.
was able
Yeah,
just to float away.
chill out.
They both were great, and I really like that they did it. I think they did a nice job of, filling in the years that it's been 7 for Garfield,
Yeah,
14 for Toby.
yeah,
They filled in the time, but they also were themselves. I think Tobey Maguire was the one that felt the least like his original, but it's like
yeah.
he's grown up, he's moved on. That's the point of his function in the story, is that he
Hmm.
has grown on from this teenager. So I really loved. I mean, just for that look into Tom Holland's face when he catches that goblin, you're like, that reminds you how great of an actor Tobey Maguire is. And I would love to see him. Maybe not. I mean, listen, they want to make more Spider-Man movies with Garfield or Maguire. I'd be there. But I would
Yeah,
love to see Tobey Maguire in more movies. I think he's a great actor, and this reminded
yeah,
me of just the little moments.
yeah, yeah. I would definitely want to see Amazing Spider-Man 3. I do think the way they kind of treated Andrew and his Spider-Man a little dirty in some scenes, but I think overall, I mean, I do think saying that he like went on this like vengeful like revenge path and couldn't like hold back his punches anymore kind of contradicts a little bit the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I
Well,
mean, I'll take
he
it.
does in, not to go too comic booky, but in Amazing Spider-Man
Yeah,
number 122, which follows Amazing Spider-Man 121, which is the night that Gwen Stacy died, he does end up killing the Green Goblin. And there's this great moment where after he kills the Green Goblin, he's like, is this closure? Do I feel fulfilled? So I do like that Peter Parker went on that path despite the ending of the Rhino. Because I mean, if you think about it, just because he's Spider-Man again doesn't mean that Dane DeHaan was off the hook. I think for Emma
true.
Stone's death.
If he killed Dane DeHaan in particular and just him, I would be okay with that. If he like went on like just a killing spree, I'd be like, I don't know about that.
I don't think he
Um,
went on a killing spree, but I do think he. Let's put it this way: I think he didn't just swing people on a web and let the police find them on the web.
yeah,
Let's just put
yeah, yeah.
somewhere in between where he was then and the Ben Affleck Batman. He was
Yeah,
somewhere. Maybe he was like the Christian
big
Bale
range. Yeah,
Batman.
yeah, yeah. That'd be fitting. Yeah, yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? I'm trying to think. I mean, Aunt May's death was very well done with the way she
Yeah,
always was like, I need to catch my breath. It kept making me think, oh, she's gonna be okay. Oh no, she isn't. Oh, oh, very well done.
yeah. Between that and Robert Downey Jr. Spoiler alert for Avengers Endgame. Robert Downey Jr.'s death in that film. I think the MCU has done a pretty wonderful job and poignant job of like not just being like, I'm dead. Ugh. Like they
Yeah,
actually
the
have that
Dark Knight
affected.
Rises death.
Yes, unfortunately, Marion Cotillard stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're spoiling all the
all of
21st
them. Yeah,
century superhero movies. Um, but I think, yeah, Marissa Tomei, I mean, Oscar winner. And I don't listen, we're on an
yeah.
Oscar podcast. This isn't the type of movie that's going to get Academy recognition. Personally, I think the score is worthy. I think the visual effects are probably the best visual effects in a Marvel movie this
In
year.
particular, in the mirror dimension scene was really good,
Mirror Dimension was great.
and the de-aging.
Yeah, and as far as everything else, I mean, sound was very good. The sound
Yeah,
mixing was wonderful. My whole thing with this, and this is a broader conversation that we probably don't have time for, but it's like, I do think that if you're going to nominate 10 movies for Best Picture, I do think there is a talent that isn't talked about creating movies that everybody can fall in love with. There is a craft to making this movie. And the fact that it's so well regarded, the fact that everybody really is falling in love with it, and the fact that people want to keep going back, case in point, there is a talent in that. And I just think just because it's a Spider-Man movie doesn't mean it's not worthy of it. So I do think like 2015, throw in The Force Awakens for Best Picture. Why not? It's a special movie that year will be partly defined by this movie. So, I mean, in
yeah,
a perfect world, if you have 10 slots, why not throw No Way Home in? It's a special movie. and it's unique among any other movie that's going to be made this year and any other year. And if that's not worthy of being one of the top 10 movies preserved in Best Picture, I don't know what is.
True. I do think the box office will probably be its main reward, which is probably enough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, great
And
movie overall.
being remembered in people's eyes because it's probably the only movie they saw
Yeah,
this year.
yeah. I really like the ending too. I feel like it's going back to like
Oh,
OG Spider-Man,
that
back at his
suit.
roots.
That suit
Yeah,
looks so
he's
good.
it does look very good, and he's all alone, which kind of sucks. But he made the right choice
Yeah, the right
with that
choice.
ending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I do wonder after that spell if Nick Fury knows who he is because he's not technically on Earth, so it's a
we
mystery.
should. I mean, I think it's the universe because I think
It
like
is.
listen, there's a lot of questions about like
There
so
is.
does everybody forget that Toby and Andrew existed in their universes? There's a lot of questions, but as I said, if you want a longer discussion, I was on the Council podcast,
Yeah,
and you can
watch
check
that.
out our in-depth spoiler review. I said that listen, I'm a Harry Potter fan. If the magic makes sense within the narrative, I will let you go. If
Yeah,
the narrative doesn't make sense, then I will start nitpicking your magic rules. But if I feel like you're telling a good story and the magic is defined enough, then I will let you go. Because again, magic's not real. It's
it's
fine.
not. No.
It's like when everybody was getting mad at like the time travel stuff in Endgame. It's like time travel isn't real. It's a beautiful movie. I'm fine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like there comes a point when I feel like with this movie specifically, I don't want to nitpick the movie. It made me too happy to
yeah,
make me want to be like,
yeah,
well, actually, how does the spell work if you forget? It's like I
yeah,
don't get the point.
yeah. True. I do think there were some. The plot. I think the plot is messy, but I think the reward is greater than um
Yeah,
all of that
depends on
to
where
make
you
it
want to
worth it.
focus your attention, and
Yeah,
that's up to every viewer. I just
I agree.
personally choose to focus on the stuff that made me tap my friend in the shoulder and be like, "Oh my god,
Yeah,
it's Andrew Garfield! It's Tobey
lots of
Maguire!"
screams. Andrew Garfield got the biggest applause, probably because
Well,
he was first, but still,
first, people then knew it was real. Because listen, I went with my friend, a group of friends, and one of my friends' parents, and they didn't even know they were in the movie. So
they
I
didn't.
do
Wow.
think, yeah, well, they're not scouring the internet.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
so I do think that Andrew coming out first is like, oh my god, it's happening, and then you kind of know. Also, he's in the suit. Tobey Maguire
He
coming
is.
out in that youth pastor look.
Yeah, exactly.
It,
Yeah, he was probably in his contract like I'm only wearing that suit once. Only get me once.
but oh my god, seeing those suits again looked great. And I do think the
Yeah.
moment when Toby and Andrew look at each other the first time, like my heart sunk into my like stomach. It was just like, oh my god, it was so cool.
Very good.
But
Very good movie.
it was firmly Tom Holland's story. One last thing, I think
It
that was
was, yeah.
key to the movie's
That's
success.
key.
Tom Holland was the core, and it worked great.
That was my biggest fear, honestly, going in. That it was because I feel like in his past two movies, well, he is the focus. He's still like so connected to the universe with like Nick Fury and with Iron Man that like I feel like sometimes the spotlight is not completely on him. And I feel like this movie, even more than those two, the spotlight is completely on him, which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I would give it probably like an 8 out of 10 personally, maybe an 8.5.
I would give it a 9.8.
Very high. Very high.
Very high.
Good movie. Good movie. I believe it has like a 4.4 on Letterboxd, which is
It
like
dropped to 4.3, but
okay.
it is in their top 50 narrative features of all
It's
time, and I
crazy.
do think it's in like the top 10 of IMDb.
Wow.
Um, so it's crazy. I mean, probably both will drop over time, but still, it's
It'll
a.
still stay pretty high, probably. Yeah.
And if you feel
Good for them.
comfortable, and you haven't already, you probably have, but if you feel comfortable, go out, enjoy, because you're not. This is a special movie. I
Yes.
know family who has never seen a Spider-Man movie who are going to go out and see this because
Oh, wow.
it's a special movie, and I think it you will be rewarded. It's a well-told story, even if you don't. That's another thing. I don't think you need to have seen the other movies for this story to work as is. They do a lot of work within the movie to make all the beats and all the characters feel
Yeah,
valued.
definitely. Definitely. So that's Spider-Man No Way Home. Pretty good movie. I'd say the only Oscar prospect is visual effects, probably. But yeah.
We'll see. With you have four Marvel movies, five if you include Venom. You have Free Guy. There's a lot of Disney or Disney adjacent movies, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what gets through.
I'd say between the Marvel ones, it's between Spider-Man and Shang-Chi, I think. I don't think
Yeah,
Eternals or Black Widow definitely won't get in.
Black Widow definitely not, and Venom probably definitely not.
No.
But I still think there's a world where Eternals maybe has a fighting chance because of the
Maybe.
Chloe Zhao connections. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's an interesting visual effects race because you also have Godzilla versus Kong. You have The Matrix, which is coming out tomorrow for us.
Yeah.
And of course, Dune, who we think is probably the front
Obviously the winner. Yeah.
Yeah, the winner. So very interesting category this year. It's not typical.
People think Don't Look Up, maybe, which I'm still a little questionable about, but
again, if you watched last week's episode, my feelings on Don't Look Up are very clear.
Yeah.
But I could see it happening in the same way that 1917 gets nominated and wins because it's just like 1917, like the visual effect is editing. Like I don't like that's that was the main visual
that was
effect.
mostly practical, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the plane
was really
very cool. But so like they sometimes go for subtle mini effects.
They do like I think usually the movie that wins visual effects is usually the movie out of all of them that's the closest to getting into Best Picture.
Yeah, which Dune will.
Dune will be.
So we'll see.
It'll definitely win. Yeah.
I could definitely see a world where Don't Look Up gets nominated. I don't think it's taking away from Dune, but I could see it where it gets nominated.
I also think everyone's underestimating Finch. I think Finch is going to get nominated, but that's just.
Did Greyhound get nominated?
It did.
All right. Then there's a precedent for Tom Hanks' Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, that's my only reasoning, really.
But granted, last year Greyhound got in with no Marvel movies. Yeah. The only superhero movie was Wonder Woman 1984 and Birds of Prey.
Yeah, so, they don't like their Marvel movies in visual effects, though, lots of times.
They get, I mean, Winter Soldier and Guardians got 2 in. That was the last time I believe they got 2 in 1 year. Yeah. Usually you get 1 nomination.
Yeah, they'll take one
slot. Endgame, 2017, I think you got Guardians 2 in there. 2016, you got Doctor Strange in there. So usually there's 1. So we'll see. Spider-Man might come out a little too late, but also at the same time, everybody's talking about it. So we'll see.
Biggest movie, yeah. Yeah, we shall see. Any other of these other movies you want to talk about, or save that for another time?
I saw Passing last night. I thought it was really great. One of the best movies of the year, probably an honorable mention for my top 10. Rebecca Hall does a great job. Very subtle and confident directorial debut. I thought her, and obviously she's being an actor herself, she pulled out great acting performances from her ensemble. I thought Tessa Thompson, this is the best she's ever been.
She's so good. I wish she was in actress consideration.
Yeah, I mean, she is for me. I thought she was great. Andre Holland, in terms of my personal picks, not my predictions for the Oscars. She was great. Andre Holland, Ruth Negga, which is apparently seeming to be the only possibility for this movie, who sadly, she's really good. Alexander Skarsgård has a small role, but a really effective one. Bill Camp. So yeah, the whole cast is great. I thought the aspect ratio choice was really subtle. The lighting choices are very subtle, but very impactful. And yeah, it evoked that feeling of like if you woke up at 2:30 in the morning, you turned on TCM. This is the type of movie you would find, and there's something quietly appealing about that I really enjoyed. So I would give this movie a 9 out of 10, 8.6, 9, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. Give it a watch.
Definitely check it out. It was very beautiful, and I do think Tessa Thompson is just as good as Ruth Negga. Maybe even better, because she has to do more subtle work, which they usually don't like. But
the harder role. Ruth Negga is a little showier, but Ruth Negga,
it is
great performance. I'd love to see her get nominated.
Definitely, yeah. Supporting actress is probably my favorite of all the acting categories this year. I think that's where a lot of my favorite performances are.
It's a good one. I think with the sorry Will Smith, but discluding Will Smith, I think Best Actor is turning into be a
that's
very
also good
category.
Yeah, very true. And then we can talk about I saw Belfast. We could talk about it another time, but I don't really get the hype. But I mean, I guess it makes
welcome
sense.
to the club.
I
mean, I saw Nightmare Alley too. Again, it was mixed for me. I've seen I've seen a lot. I've pretty much seen everything now, except for some of the international features and some of the documentaries. I'm sure. Hopefully, we can talk about Don't Look Up when you have seen it, and Ben has seen it.
That'll be next week. Next week we'll have Don't Look Up, being the Ricardos, probably Nightmare Alley at that point. So we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of mixed to negative
Yeah, yeah.
opinions.
The Lost Daughter too, I believe, comes out this weekend.
That's great. That I've seen. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be checking that out. So lots coming up. Less this week, but yeah, lots to look forward to. Um, then quickly in our category spotlight, we have best cinematography, which is an interesting one. I'd say there's a top 6 here, and we'll have to see who gets the last spot. But who do you have for best cinematography?
So, as mentioned before, I think that Dune and West Side Story are going to be battling it out for these
Yeah,
technical categories, and I have them as my two front runners here. I would put the slight edge on West Side Story.
yeah, that's who
Um,
I have winning right now.
but yet again, like I'm trying to decipher, like, because I feel like a good comp for this is like Blade Runner 2049 versus um, Dunkirk, where Dunkirk is the more traditional winner, but Blade Runner 2049 pulled off the upset. But I'm wondering, was that because of the quality of the cinematography, or just because they wanted to give Deakins the win?
Deakins. I think Deakins probably has
I
some
think
effect on that.
you're probably right, because I feel like a lot of times they go for more traditional rather than the more visually stunning, thanks to the sci-fi advent of the storytelling. So it is again, I'm leaning West Side Story because I also think that'll perform better overall. Like I think that's going to be a more
Yeah,
favorable movie from the Academy. Um, so yeah, I would probably put West Side Story first, which would be deserving, beautifully
yeah,
shot film. Then Dune. Then I have The Power of the Dog, which is great. It would be, I believe, the
beautiful,
second female cinematographer nominated after Rachel Morrison
crazy,
for Mudbound in 2018, so very deserving.
insane.
Um, then I have Belfast. I think some of the
Yeah,
shots are, well,
it's
they're
well
well
done in
shot.
some shots.
Black and white is very alluring
Yeah,
for a lot of voters. So I have that at number 4. And then this is where I feel like the conventional wisdom is tragedy and Macbeth, but I honestly don't. I could see a world. I'm going to predict it now because I could see a world where that is the same as The Lighthouse, where it gets a single nomination for cinematography and that's it. But I don't feel the love for this movie and just the attention for this movie. So, but I don't necessarily see it for Nightmare Alley, which I feel like is the sixth
it is.
possible
Yeah,
contender. So that's where I feel like it's up. I would love if Spencer got in here, but I don't see that happening.
yeah. I wish.
Um, I mean, I would love if like The French Dispatch got in here. Passing would be a wonderful nominee here.
That's a better use of black and white than Belfast, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's tough, but as it stands now, I'm going to put Tragedy in my 5th position, thinking it'll follow a Lighthouse trajectory. It's a very deserving nominee.
Yeah,
I saw the film. I got to see it in IMAX, which was beautiful.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like the top 4, I feel pretty confident about. West Side's Dune, Power of the Dog, and Belfast. I feel like those 4 are in, and I feel like that's the case with a
Hmm.
lot of these categories. It's just getting that 5th spot, and for me, that's
Yeah,
Tragedy Macbeth for now.
yeah. We have the same top 5. I would have them in a little bit different order. I would have Tragedy Macbeth. I think that's definitely getting it in my opinion. I would have Belfast as my number 5. I still think it's gonna get in. I don't think Nightmare Alley has enough behind it right now to usurp it. Um, I do think having just seen it, some of the shots are interesting, the way it's framed. But I do just think the Academy like put a black and white coat over it, and for some reason they just fall for it every time. They just
With
love their black
Belfast,
and white. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think that could be a nomination that goes along with the movie if they really love Belfast. If the
yeah,
Academy that likes the more feel good movies, like especially because like the way they use color to show like the stage and
yeah.
theater and the arts,
The
like
movies,
that'll
yeah,
be something that'll be like, oh my god, so inventive,
yeah,
nominated.
yeah, uh, yeah. There's always one of those every year, pretty much, where you're like, there's better cinematography, but that's a pretty solid top 5 there, I would say overall.
Again, I feel like honestly, like if you take out Belfast and put in Spencer for us, I feel like that would be our
That would
personal
be
5. So
probably my top 5. Yeah.
it's a pretty good list.
Yeah, I really wish poor Spencer is like probably either like Kristen Stewart or bust. I feel like it's probably maybe costumes. I don't know.
Maybe costumes, but don't discount House of Gucci, man.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, again, we'll talk about it probably another time. It's why it's very hard for me to see a Kristen Stewart win.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
think she, I mean, if Glenn Close couldn't be a sole nominee and win, I don't think Kristen Stewart's of the caliber yet among the Academy. I love her. I would give her the win. I think she's incredible. It's making every passing
yeah.
day, it's making it very
Yeah.
hard for me to think that Kristen Stewart's going to pull this off. I currently now have Lady Gaga as my front runner.
Yeah.
It's
I could
such
see
a
that definitely
weird,
happening. It is
it's such
weird
a
because
weird
with
list.
every day, both Kristen Stewart and Will Smith lower a bit in my rankings. I think that's maybe just a front runner curse, but
Yeah, don't want to be the front runner. I mean, Renee Zellweger was able to pull it off, but that is rare,
yeah,
rare.
yeah. It's
Um,
also weird. We haven't had all five Best Actress nominees be in movies that weren't nominated for Best Picture since 2005. So not under the current preferential ballot system, and the current like conventional top five
who do
doesn't have
you have Nicole, you have Lady Gaga, you have
Coleman,
um, Coleman,
Chastain, and
Chastain.
Kristen Stewart.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I could see that happening. I think The Lost Daughter is actually gaining traction thanks to a lot of Critics
It
Award
could get into
noms and
picture.
wins. I think it could get into that 10th spot.
Yeah.
And I also think that Alana Haim is getting a lot of traction for
Hmm.
Licorice Pizza. And I feel like Licorice Pizza may be a good contender. And you usually get an acting nom with that. I think Cooper Hoffman, as deserving as he might be, is a
Yeah.
little bit lower down. So I could see a world where Alana Haim gets in and Lost Daughter gets a Best Picture nomination, though I think that
Yeah.
it is very interesting and the possibility of that is high. Though, let's be clear, last year, one of the reasons why I think Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman both lost in their respective categories for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, probably because they didn't have a Best Picture. They weren't a
Yeah.
Best Picture nominee, and
Yeah.
that usually hurts you. So that would be rare. And if it doesn't happen, then I would definitely look out for whoever is the Best Picture nominee.
Right now, yeah. Yeah, I would say Alana Haim is. I mean, I feel like there has to be someone in there whose no movie is nominated for picture. So I think you're right. Either Alana Haim gets in, or Lost Daughter gets into picture, which I think right now it's my number 10. But
If Lost
yeah,
Daughter gets in for Best Picture, I think Olivia Colman may become your front runner because
I
I
think so.
don't. Lady Gaga just feels like conventional wisdom based on the type of performances they do. And listen, Cher, I think, won her second nomination for
Yeah,
Moonstruck, so it's possible. I, I think Rachel Zegler is out,
she's out.
frankly,
Yeah.
because a lot of her scenes are with Ansel Elgort, and not
Hmm.
because of the controversy. It's just that he's not of the same caliber as the other
The
actors.
chemistry's not there.
Why? Why is Ariana DeBose the most like the leading frontrunner for West Side Story acting wise? Because she has no scenes with Ansel Elgort.
Exactly. Yeah. She
It's
has scenes
it's
with good
the
actors.
it's the Phantom Menace thing of like, why is Darth Maul the coolest character? Because he doesn't have any lines. It's,
Yeah.
so I think that hurts Degler, and I think we can't have two ingenues. I think you probably brought that up. So Alana
Yeah.
Haim seems to be the one. Is if there's going to be an ingenue, it's going to be her.
It'll be her. Yeah, definitely. I do think, yeah, I think you never discount Coleman. I think she can win. Can never discount her.
I mean,
Um,
two-time Academy Award winner Olivia Colman is a pretty
it's
nice
a nice
thing.
ring to it.
Also, it would be really fun because Frances McDormand won for Three Billboards in 2017, and then Coleman won in 2018 for The Favorite. And so it would be
Yeah.
really funny.
Oh, yeah.
That we had
It would be.
McDormand and Coleman. I mean, where's Zellweger?
It would be
She's
fitting. Oh
would
God,
be
no,
fun.
not Zellweger, but yeah. Let's Rachel
Zellweger's
Zegler
great.
take a break. I know, but she wasn't. I don't think she deserved that win, in my
She already
opinion.
has two, so she's good.
Yeah, she can cap out at two. And
Um,
as we see, when they really like you, they really like you. Like with
they will.
Francis or like with Mahershala Ali, when you're in your
Yeah.
honeymoon period with them, they don't care how many Oscars you get.
And I do think Olivia Colman, I kind of see her as a modern day Sally Field. So I could see
Yeah,
that happening for her. I mean,
yeah,
it's a great it really is a great performance, which also helps. It isn't just we're nominating her to nominate her. Like sometimes you get with Meryl Streep syndrome, or like
yeah,
Florence Foster Jenkins.
yeah,
She's really great in the movie. And Maggie Gyllenhaal really gives her so many subtleties, but also like if you're a person who looks for subtle acting, there's a lot of that. If you look for showy acting, there's also a lot of that.
yeah.
And it's very well balanced. Olivia Colman's such a delight, and people love
She's
her.
amazing.
They love
Yeah,
Olivia Colman.
she's so likable, like
Yeah,
and crazy, and her speeches are always amazing. So yeah,
yeah. I would love another Olivia Colman speech. I
I
never
would.
get tired of
Yeah,
them.
Yeah. If only Glenn Close had another movie in leading this year, that would just be
Oh my God.
true irony.
Yeah, and Melissa McCarthy and Yalitza
Yeah,
Aparicio came back.
yeah, yeah, come
Yeah,
back. Um,
Glenn Close has got to go make Sunset Boulevard, like
she
adapt
does.
the
I feel
musical.
like didn't she say recently that they're like that movie's probably not going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, I
Been
don't
in
think she
development
cares at this
forever.
point.
Yeah,
But yeah, she wants it. I think that's her path forward.
I think she'll eventually get it. Speaking of which, that ties into our final thing this time since I didn't put out a Q&A tweet. Our final game here that we could do when we don't have a ton to talk about on some weeks. The game is called Five, Survive, or Deprive. Um, so it's a game where we go over a list of actors who haven't won an Oscar yet, and we decide if they will, one, five, win within the next 5 years, two, survive, win eventually in their lifetime, or three, deprive, never win in their whole life. So I decided we'll do a Spider-Man theme this week with some Spider-Man actors, since that's the big movie going around. So starting off with Andrew Garfield, Anthony, 5 years in his lifetime or never?
I think five. I
Five
think
years?
that he was nominated for Hacksaw Ridge 5 years ago. Nominated for this, he had two contenders of this year with Isa Tammy Faye and um, Tick Tick
Tick tick.
Boom. And
Yeah.
I think Tick Tick Boom is going to open a lot of doors. Um, I think now he occupies the same place as Adam Driver. So I would say five.
Yeah. I would say I'd say survive. I think he'll get it in his lifetime. I I'm not I feel like if he gets it within the next 5 years, he'll barely make the cutoff, but I think he's gonna get one at some point. Next up, Zendaya. What do you think? Five, survive, deprive,
Survive. Um,
survive.
I think, unfortunately, the fact that Halle Berry is still the only
Yeah.
non-white winner of Best Actress, and there aren't that many in supporting actress. It's not
Hmm.
like it's like lopsided to that degree. Means
Yeah.
that the opportunities for her are small, but of course that's changing every day. So
Hmm.
I think it is possible. I think she does. She's very talented. The fact that she pulled off that Emmy win with Euphoria proves that.
Yeah.
So yes, but I think it's going to take some time, especially because it's taken so. I feel like there are a lot of, not that we. It's like there are other people of diverse backgrounds who are in line. Like it's like they have to pick one out of a group. But I do
Yeah.
think like there are a lot of other established names that probably should have an Oscar um, before in terms of like representation, like
Yeah.
the people like Halle Berry who's been working for so long that haven't gotten it yet. So um,
Hmm.
I would probably say Survive for her.
Yeah, I would agree. I think she'll get it eventually. She got some buzz from Malcolm and Marie, even though she didn't get in. So I think she'll keep if she keeps on that path of doing similar movies. Um, and she also said she wants to get into directing. She said she was shadowing John Watts a lot on set for Spider-Man No Way Home. So I think I think she's heading down the right path to eventually win.
Yeah,
Um,
and she can be in blockbusters, she can be in
yeah,
television. She's got a lot of avenues ahead of herself.
she does. Next, Alfred Molina. I do think this is a deprive, in my opinion. I do think, sadly, he will never win an Oscar.
Unfortunately, a deprived, though he's a great actor.
He would be worthy.
It would be worthy.
I hope he gets like a juicy role at some point. He was good and promising young woman, but that's not like a juicy role.
Oh yeah, he was great in that.
Yeah. Next up, Tom Holland. He tried a little bit to get in with Cherry, didn't exactly work out.
He was good in
I
the
think
movie.
he's
I'll give
still.
him that.
I still think he's growing as an actor. I don't think he's like at the level of someone around his age, like Timothy Chalamet. But I feel like he's kind of like a Tom Cruise, maybe. Like maybe he'll win eventually, but right now, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, yes, I think he could be the Tom Cruise. But I mean, Tom Cruise, we should note that he did have a lot of nominations.
He did,
Um,
yeah, yet to win, but
but I could see a world where like, listen, Leo was such a big name. A lot of people think Robert Pattinson is the new Leonardo DiCaprio.
yeah,
Could be.
yeah,
But Tom Holland, like, I feel like, listen, No Way Home will probably make as much money as Titanic. I could
yeah,
see a world where Tom Holland hangs up Spider-Man and, maybe a decade. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
probably like a decade. Yeah.
And then he starts doing some, some of the more work like Cherry, but with a stat more, better movies. And I
Yeah.
think he could. So I'm going to say Survive. I think he's got it in him. It's just going to take a while because I think his focus now is Spider-Man.
I think he wants it too. I do think he wants that kind of recognition.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna say Deprive. I don't know because he's also talking about lately like he wants to start a family with Zendaya, which is
Yeah.
interesting. So maybe he focuses more on that. So
But
we'll have to
still,
see.
like, this is another issue with our society. The, when
He's
men
gonna
want to
have
start
more
families,
options.
they have an easier path forward to go back to work than the women do.
True.
So,
Very
I think
true.
so. We'll see. I could see him pulling a Leo. It'll be a while, but then he'll start doing these smaller roles. I mean, look at like Scarlett Johansson. Like she was doing like Under the
Yeah.
Skin and Jojo Rabbit and Marriage Story in between her Marvel work. So I could see Tom Holland doing that, especially when he gets out of the phase of doing the Uncharted and the
Hmm.
onwards, like
Chaos walking.
Chaos Walking. I think
Yeah.
he's gonna. I think he wants to start looking for those roles, and I think he's
Yeah.
deserving of them because he is a
He's
really
done the
well.
impossible too.
Yeah, it's a great actor.
Yeah. Next up, going to be nominated this upcoming year, Kirsten Dunst. She's the she's gonna win. I would say Survive on this. I don't think she's gonna win for this, but I think she'll win her in her lifetime.
I mean, listen, I love Ariana DeBose. I think Kirsten Dunst should win this category. I thought she was extraordinary in The Power of the Dog.
She
I
was very
do
good.
think Survive. I think this is the type of actor that they love, that they're going to want to give an Oscar one day. And honestly, I think the thing that just, it's funny. Ariana DeBose has more screen time at the end of the movie. Kirsten Dunst has it at the beginning, and I think that's the
Yeah.
reason why we're leaning one way or the other because you finish with DeBose, you start with Dunst, and so you remember DeBose more.
I do
I
think
think,
DeBose has a stronger performance though, still in general, in my opinion.
granted, but it's also built off the backs of one of the greatest performances of the past.
Yes.
Like
She has a
Dunst
lot more
had to
challenges
create
too.
more. I'm not. They're both great.
They are
But
both
that
amazing.
what I'm saying is I think there is passion for Dunst. She creates a lot of these unique characters, and I think one of them will get through. So I say Survive.
Yeah, I think she's starting finally her entrance into the Oscar scene with her first nomination this year.
Yeah.
Um, Another amazing actor who deserves one, Willem Dafoe. I think I would say five for this. I think he'll win within the next 5 years.
Yeah. This is also me being like aspirational, like he better win in the next 5 years.
He better, yeah.
Yeah, because I think,
I'd say in supporting actor. I don't think he's going to get lead.
yeah, it'll definitely be, I think, in supporting. But listen, I think what helps is that I really do think that Spider-Man may help with this because so many people are being reminded on a global scale of how good he is.
Yeah,
And so I think he will get a renewed, this will be like a new lease. Like, I feel like similarly to what um, like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was, or Robert Downey Jr. with the Iron Man was. It was like this revitalization on a mass scale that reminded us why we fell in love with this actor in the first place. I feel like that's what Spider-Man's doing for Willem Dafoe, and thus roles will follow that may be of more substance to get him that award. I think there's just a lot of Willem Dafoe love going around this weekend,
there
and
is. Yeah,
more than most. So I feel five for him.
yeah, I
He's
agree.
also older, so we got to give it to him sooner
Get it
rather than.
eventually. Yeah, and he's also on like everything lately, so
Yeah.
he's got to get something. He deserved it for Florida Project. I loved that performance.
Yeah.
Next up, another villain, Michael Keaton. Lots of people thought he was going to get it for Birdman. Didn't happen. I'd say Survive here. I don't think he's going to get it within the next 5 years, but I think he will get it at some point.
I'm gonna say five. I mean, the
Five.
fact that he did Birdman and Spotlight back to back proves that he can do
True.
great films in succession. And if he's got another 1-2 punch, I think he could pull a Julianne Moore and be like, "Oh yeah, we didn't give it to you that time when we should have." Still one of the biggest Oscar snubs of all time.
Yeah.
So I'm still not
Seriously.
over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's give it to Michael Keaton. I'm gonna say five for him.
Yeah. I can see it. I can see it definitely. Next up, um, starring, and he's going to get another nominee this year. We have Benedict Cumberbatch. He could win this year, so maybe
I
I'm
say
tempted
one.
to say five. Yeah. Can we say a few months? 5
I mean,
months?
I think five just because I think he's going to win in March now.
Yeah.
So,
It really is. Do I think he's gonna win? I'll say 5-2, because even if he doesn't win, I feel like he's gonna get a role eventually. But I do think he's contending for that number one spot right now for me.
but even if he doesn't win for this, I think Power of the Dog, like for lifelong fans like myself, I didn't know he had this in him. And this is
Yeah.
such a brilliant performance that this will give him scripts that will get him that Oscar if this won't.
Yeah,
So I'm
definitely.
going to say five. It's a lot of people who I think are going to win in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But I think there's a difference between like I could see it's me saying I could see a world where they do win in the next 5 years versus I
Yeah.
just don't see it happening in the next 5 years. Zendaya and like people like that, like Tom Holland, like those are people that I think will get it later on in their careers. Where I think Benedict
Yeah.
Cumberbatch is at the point in his
He's
career
in the
that he
peak.
could get it tomorrow.
He could, yeah. Next up, Tobey Maguire. I don't think that's gonna happen because I think he's pretty much retired. But
Yeah, that I think he. Well, you didn't specify. I think he could produce something and he could win
true,
because he
true.
like he's
Does he
been
do
moving
much
more into
producing?
producing. Um, so I think that's a possibility. I do think he's gonna be deprived in the long term,
Yeah,
but
I think he'll be okay with it.
he'll be okay. He's a great actor. I mean, listen.
Someone who.
No, say what you're gonna say.
Oh no, I was gonna move on to the next one. So go ahead.
Well, just I think listen. I like that people. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is why we are where we are today. It was a that performance isn't talked about in terms of what it did. It's one of the most influential performances of all time, and
Yeah,
I'm glad he's getting some spotlight, sharing with Andrew Garfield, who's finally getting a chance, an equal chance to the three Spider-Men.
yeah.
So
Happy for him.
he's a great actor. He's not the type of actor that needs an Oscar. I mean, nobody needs an
No,
Oscar,
he doesn't.
but he doesn't do the work that needs that type of recognition. Let's just say.
No, I don't think he's delivered an Oscar-worthy performance yet either.
Trying to go back on his filmography. Um, I mean,
in
he
my
was great in
opinion,
Spider-Man too.
he was good. Yeah,
What about the Boss Baby?
he was in that.
He was
I
the
didn't know he
grown.
was
He
in
was
that.
the narrator, like the grown-up version of the
Oh,
story. Let me see.
yeah. I don't think so. I don't think we're the Boss Baby.
He's going to be in Babylon, Damien
He
Chazelle's
is.
movie next year. So
Oh, maybe he
maybe,
is making a comeback.
yeah.
So next, Samuel L. Jackson. He deserves one. Can't believe he doesn't have one. Um, I think he'll. I mean, if honorary Oscars count, I would say he'll get an honorary one within the next 5 years. I don't think he'll win one competitively within the next 5 years. I think he could win one competitively eventually, but what do you think?
I'm gonna say ah, things falling all around. I'm gonna say survive. I don't see it in the next five
Eventually.
years, especially because he's still with Marvel. That's a heavy
Yeah.
contract. Um, but you know what? The 10th Quentin Tarantino
Tarantino
movie,
film.
I could
Yeah.
see maybe him winning if he's in that one.
Yeah. I could see them going all out with that movie because Tarantino's never one director either. So
Yeah.
maybe.
So maybe if he's in that movie, I could see Best Supporting Actor Samuel L. Jackson.
We already have one Gwen Stacy who won an Oscar, but how about Bryce Dallas Howard? Is she ever going to win one? I don't know.
uh, I'm gonna say Deprive for Miss Howard. Yeah,
Her,
I've never come away from a Bryce Dallas Howard movie and be like, wow, Bryce Dallas Howard.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
Her Ron Howard has an Oscar, right?
yes, he won for. He definitely won for Beautiful Mind. I believe he also might have won Best Director for Apollo 13.
I
I don't
think
know.
if she continues down this directing path, I mean, her episodes of The Mandalorian were some of the best. She has a long, if she continues directing, she has a long career left ahead. I think she could maybe win for directing. Um,
I mean,
I'll,
what
hmm,
we're in a world where like Greta Gerwig doesn't have an Oscar yet, and I feel
yeah,
like Bryce Dallas Howard for Best Director after two episodes of The Mandalorian. I
no,
mean,
no, I'm not saying anytime soon. I'm saying like when she's like probably like 60 or something after a while. Um,
we shall see. She might still be running from dinosaurs then.
yeah, true. I would still say Deprive, honestly, but
I think
who
the prize.
knows? Getting into the end here, Jake Gyllenhaal. Um, I'd say
Survive.
survive. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
he's in the next 5 years, but he's gonna get one eventually.
He'll get it.
Yeah.
He'll get it.
Speaking of the Mandalorian, Jon Favreau. I
He
don't think
doesn't
he's gonna
have
get it for
one.
acting, and he does not have one now.
I'm gonna say he gets an honorary Oscar one of these days for something, either the tech
Yeah,
that he's pioneered or his legacy in terms of starting Iron Man and starting the MCU. I think he will get an honorary Oscar. So survive with an asterisk.
yeah, I think he'll survive too. Probably something like that. Probably honorary, like Samuel L. Jackson. And last but not least, here I decided to throw a director in, Sam Raimi. Is he ever going to get an Oscar, or is he just too weird?
No, I
Yeah,
love him. I would love him to,
yeah.
but no, I think he's another honorary at best. And we might as well. Mark Webb and John Watts also
Those
deprived.
aren't going to happen. No, no. That's why I only put Raimi because I feel like he's the most likely of them all. But still, probably.
Kevin
Deprive.
Feige. You want to end with Feige?
Oh
Do you,
yeah, I didn't think about Kevin Feige. I think he's going to get one eventually. He has to.
do you think it'll
Even
be a
if it's
competitive Oscar?
yeah, that's the thing. He'll definitely get an honorary one. It depends. Like if he stays at Marvel and the only things he produces are like
He'll
Marvel and
stay at
Star Wars.
Marvel. That's definitely going to be what he does. The question is, does he have another Black Panther?
I don't think so. I don't think he's gonna win for a because the only way he could win for a Marvel movie is if it wins picture.
That's true. I mean, the one thing I do think is going to happen eventually is that, I've said this before. I'm not sure if I said it here. There was the same debate over whether Star Wars was cinema upon the release of Return of the Jedi. And Siskel and Ebert had to like defend George Lucas.
Yeah,
Eventually we came around, and now Star Wars is seen as a pinnacle of, cinema, changed cinema. People look at film historians will look back at Star Wars well regarded.
yeah.
Eventually that will happen with Marvel. There's no denying that they're on the same trajectory.
Star Wars hasn't won
That,
Best
what?
Picture though. Star Wars has never won Best Picture though.
No, but I still think that the issue is that when Star Wars was gaining that reverence, it was around the time of the prequels. Marvel is still going to be making the same type of movie when probably the reverence for it starts to come in. So I
Yeah,
could like let's put it this way. Also, I don't think the MCU outlives Feige. So whatever he decides to make his last MCU movie, I could see that returning the king for the last 30 years of this franchise.
yeah. I would still say if we aren't counting honorary Oscars, I would say Deprive. I think he would survive with an honorary one.
Yeah, I'm on the line. I'm going to be hopeful, and I'm going to say survive. And
Yeah,
again, the last MCU movie, the last one he makes,
I think the
I
MCU is going to
am
continue after him. I
brilliant.
think they can't stop that money. They're just too greedy.
Yeah, but eventually we're going to run out of comics.
They'll just reboot it.
I granted they will reboot it, but I don't. I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe will not outlive him. I don't think it can
With
outlive him.
these characters, no, it won't outlive him.
I think yes, we may get a rebooted Iron Man or Captain America, not when Kevin Feige is still running the shop, and not when this is still one franchise.
Yeah, definitely. Have
So
to see how long it lasts. Because
we'll
if it's only
see.
like another 10, 15 years, he could
We're on
produce.
year 13, and we still got the X-Men and the Fantastic Four to
Yeah,
go. I mean,
probably
I
like
think
another 15 at least, I would say.
15. I think another 20 years of the MCU, which
Well,
so many people will be like, oh God, but no.
yeah, it's
Listen,
a long time.
it'll be crazy. Who knows if we'll be
Will
here
be.
in 20 years?
Yeah, who knows? We'll have to see if the world is still spinning. You know, Don't Look Up doesn't think so, but yeah,
Oh God.
we'll have to
Don't
see.
Look Up made
Speaking
me
of which,
want to kill myself.
yeah, speaking of which, we'll be talking about that next week. Don't Look Up coming out in 2 days, I believe.
Yeah. Please, for the love of
Maybe
God,
3.
do not see this over the Christmas holiday. Wait till December 26th. Your Christmas will be
A
ruined
fun
and you'll remember
family
it all.
Christmas movie. That's what I've heard. Watch it with everyone. Spark
I
some
mean, don't
debates.
watch it. That's spoiler. Don't watch the movie, but if you feel like you have to, wait till December 26th.
Yeah, I'll have to see when I check it out. But we'll definitely talk about it next week. Hopefully, we can get Ben in on it to join,
Yes.
give his thoughts. And we will also be, speaking of which, doing our own ceremony of what we want to nominate and honor for 2021, including movies released from January to, I believe the cutoff was like February 20th or something. because we didn't include those last year. So
Yes. So films, I believe that would
mostly just
include
Judas.
Judas. I mean, in terms of like the best. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the Mauritanian. So
Yeah,
films like
true. Ben was also a big fan of that movie.
that. Benedict Cumberbatch, man, it's
He's
great.
got a lot this year. He's got a
He's
really
got a
good year.
lot.
One of
Very
our
good.
categories this year is MVP of
That's
the year.
well, I
Benedict
think
Cumberbatch.
best
It will
Benedict
be
Cumberbatch
nominated.
performance. You could have a whole category.
Yeah. Benedict
uh,
Cumberbatch, Andrew Garfield, I think both in
yeah,
contention there.
yeah, it's great.
Definitely.
It's fun. We have two No Way Home cast members contending against each other in Best
They
Actor.
do. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Good year. Willem Dafoe also has a pretty good year. So yeah,
Very good year.
pretty good. So yeah, that's this week's episode. That's all for this week. I will post a Q&A hopefully next week if you have any questions, but sorry, I forgot to this week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like the video, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. Were we correct in which Spider-Man actors will win Oscars and not? And yeah, do all that fun stuff, and we will see you all next week for a fun Don't Look Up discussion.
Yes. Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.